If your messaging isn't right, if how you talk and communicate to voters isn't right, it doesn't matter whose name is on the ballot. And I think that the Democratic Party itself needs to do a lot of soul searching here and look inward, because the results of the election, to me, it says a lot more about the Democratic Party than it does about Donald Trump. We already know how we feel about Donald Trump. Everybody in America, for good or bad, knows how they feel about Donald Trump. He's been on the stage now since 2016. But the Democratic Party went backwards in almost every demographic in all but two states in this election. The problem isn't necessarily just one candidate or one person's name or when they got in the race or out of the race. There's something much deeper going on there, and a bigger disconnect between what the Democratic Party's values are and how they communicate that to the American people.
So how would you define the Democratic Party's values right now? I mean, on something like, let's say, the economy.
Well, what it should have been is you cannot say that the party that pals around with billionaires and the richest person in the world is really the party that's going to look out for the little guy, for the working class, for the minimum wage people in this country, for the single moms who are working two jobs. Democrats need to make this more about the people and less about Donald Trump, less about personalities, less about things like sexism and racism and misogyny. And I'm not saying that those things don't exist and that it's not right to call them out when they do, show themselves. But a lot of this campaign was about personality and not about how policies will impact people in a tangible, real way. Democracy is in danger sounds great and might be true, but the average person who's just trying to pay the rent, get their kids to school, do the carpool pickup, do homework, get a meal on the table, and do it all again the next day, they're not thinking about democracy.
So what does that reset look like right now between now and the next election?
Well, for one, the Democratic Party needs to bring different voices into the tent here. I have watched these campaigns progress, and it's people with great resumes, people who worked for Clinton and Obama and Biden. And you know what? That group think, that linear way, singular way of viewing the world, that's not where most of America lives right now. You look at the electoral map, you look at the map of the country, it's very red across the board, almost from coast to coast. How many people who are in the war rooms of the Harris campaign or the DNC or the upper echelon, the Democratic Party power, how many of those people spent time in those places, who have gone to a country music concert in Oklahoma, who've gone to a WWE event in Missouri? I doubt any of them have.
And as names start to emerge as possible leadership roles within the Democratic Party, does Kamala Harris remain one of them?
She's going to have a voice. She's the first female Black vice president in American history. She has earned a place at the table. She has a unique experience that few people could possibly imagine. And she's relatively young, politically speaking. I mean, she's 2 decades younger than the incoming president, Donald Trump. She's not going anywhere. But in terms of the time for her to be on the ballot, no, I think that time is now past. We tried it. It didn't work. The idea that we would then say, well, let's run that back and try it again makes absolutely no sense.
What do you expect to hear from President Biden when he addresses the nation today? First time we'll hear from him since the results of the election.
I expect him to be what he has always been, which is a decent, honest, transparent person who cares about what he would call the soul of the nation. And I expect him to be conciliatory. I expect him to pave the way for people's transition of power. In short, I expect him to say and do the things that Donald Trump refused to do in 2020.
News Nation contributor, veteran political strategist, our friend here at News Nation, Kurt Bardella. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Marnie.
Good to see you. All right, still ahead.